So welcome everybody. I am so glad that you are here joining us today. I'm Michelle Hughes. I'm the Executive Director of NC Child, and we are going to take the next 30 minutes to say thank you to you all for all that you have done for kids and families in North Carolina this year. I am so happy that you could join us today on Facebook Live and hear a little bit more about the work that we've been doing, the work that you've helped us do, and get to hear a little bit about what's happening for kids and families in North Carolina. So quick run through the program. We're hoping this is going to be short. So about 30 minutes. We're hoping that to wrap this up by about 12:30. Our policy director, Whitney Tucker, Whitney, say hi, is going to be sharing some of the highlights of the impacts that we've been able to have for kids and families during this incredibly challenging year because of your support and your voices that you raised for kids this legislative session. We also are joined by Shawna Daniels. Shawna, say hi, who is an amazing early childhood advocate, early childhood specialist in Orange County, a supporter of NC Child, and who did some amazing advocacy work that she's going to talk about this session for kids and families. And we're going to give you the preview of the world premiere preview of a video that we just made about our impact in 2020, thanks to your support and contributions. And so without further ado, I am just going to get us started by saying the following. The whole reason that we're able to do the work that we do at NC Child, the advocacy for kids, working with folks across the state to lift their voices and support kids' issues is because of you. You make our work possible. And I am so incredibly grateful for the many ways that you all have supported us this past year. Many of you have made a financial contribution to NC Child. And as you guys know, for nonprofits like us, that is so vitally important. So a big, huge thank you for your financial support. If you'd like to make a gift, you can do that right now on our website at ncchild.org/donate. Also, many of you subscribe to our email alerts and follow us on Facebook. And when you get our action alerts, you all take action. You have raised your voices multiple times, speaking up for the needs of kids and families this past year. It has made a difference. It's so important. And so everybody that has taken action, thank you so much for all that you have done. If you don't get our action alerts, please take a moment and sign up now at ncchild.org. We will put that link into the chat box, and of all the resources that we rely on to advocate for kids and families, the most important one is you and your voice. Thank you for using it this year. You all have helped kids and families. We have a lot more work to do ahead of us, but we want to celebrate now some of the work and some accomplishments that you've helped us do this year. And so I'm going to hand the program over to Whitney Tucker, our policy director, who's going to talk a little bit about the accomplishments for kids and families this year. Whitney.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And thank you again to all of you for what you've done to support our work. Before I really go into all of the great things that you guys have helped us accomplish this year, I just want to say that if you have questions, please just go ahead and type them into the chat. We're going to come back at the end and try to answer everything. So, don't worry, we will get to it. So diving right into some of the good news. As you guys can imagine, this legislative session was just all COVID all the time, right? There is just so much that families need right now. And you guys really helped us to hone in on what those things were, and then also to raise our voices for kids when it came to what they really needed. So some of the things that we saw that were really fantastic: $35 million to DHHS's Division of Child Development and Early Education for operational flexibility grants that help childcare centers stay open. We know that childcare providers are the workforce that is behind our workforce, right? And without them being open, everybody else can't go back to work. So we really appreciate you speaking up on that. Some other great stuff that we saw: more money going to the Division of Social Services to continue monthly payments to foster families that started in April, because a lot of those families were left out of the stimulus payments that came through from the federal government. Those things were based on taxes from last year. And if you had fostered a child in the meantime, you didn't get that payment. And so with you guys' support, we were able to convince the legislature to put some money behind that, which is great. And then we also saw a total of $12 million in additional funding going to our state's food banks. that help meet increased need that is so important now because so many families are struggling to just meet basic needs like food, right? We know with parents having lost their jobs lately that families are really stretched thin, and that extra money really helped food banks to serve thousands more families that would have gone without. So you guys made a really big impact there. Some other really important single pieces of legislation that we saw in this session that you had a really strong hand in moving forward. Senate Bill 476 focused on suicide prevention, and it was finally signed into law this session. So I know 2020 had so much bad news, right? But like this was fantastic news, and it actually happened this session. NC Child has worked on this issue and advocated with you guys and with other partners across the state for so many years. And so it's really great to finally see it come to pass. This legislation requires the State Board of Education to adopt a school-based mental health policy, and for K through 12 schools to adopt and implement a school-based mental health plan that includes training and a suicide risk referral protocol, so that kids who are at risk of dying by suicide are able to see the trained adults and caregivers that they need to get them help before it's too late. You guys are making a big impact there. Another piece that we were really excited to work with you all on this session was actually a piece of legislation that didn't pass, and it was something that we were actively fighting against. There was a child welfare bill called House Bill 918 that received a veto largely due to the calls and emails and messages that you sent your elected officials. So this bill was intended to move children more quickly out of the foster care system and into permanent homes, but it really aggressively targeted parents with substance use disorders. It would have made family reunification less likely for kids in foster care by just really dramatically shortening the length of time that a child could be in care before parental rights were terminated permanently. So while it was really well-intentioned, this bill would have had an impact of scaring parents with substance use disorder from seeking the help that they needed. And we also know that the long history of racial bias in our state's child welfare, justice, and healthcare systems was really just going to make it more likely that more children of color were permanently separated from their birth families as well. So after a lot of legislative debate that was informed by the input of advocates like you guys, the bill unfortunately did still pass out of both chambers, but it was ultimately vetoed by Governor Cooper. So I just want to emphasize with this specific piece that this wouldn't have happened if folks like you did not get involved. This debate was unexpected, I think, from a lot of legislators, and it went on longer than the debate that afternoon on lots of other pieces of emergency legislation that have just been, getting pushed out of the door during this COVID crisis. And you guys speaking up on this bill really brought to light all of the issues that I just mentioned about it, right? There were a lot of legislators who I think just didn't have the background that they needed to understand the impact that something like this would have on families across the state, especially those that are suffering with substance use disorders. So when bills like this come up, just want to say that, you can look at the intent and really guess what the outcomes will be, but we rely on you guys as people who are directly impacted or folks who work every day with those who are impacted to make sure that we as advocates at NC Child understand, and then also that legislators understand how kids and families are really going to be affected. So when you make the choice to speak up on issues like House Bill 918, you are making a choice to change kids' lives for the better. And so I really just want to say thank you for doing that. And also as we move forward, right, so trying to get out of this legislative session and gear up for the long legislative session that starts in January, I want to emphasize for me as someone who is policy director, who is, trying to listen to what you all are telling me about what's going on and then relay those messages to legislators, how important it is for you to keep speaking up because we really want to get a lot done in this long session. So our focus for the next year is on policies that are going to support our state's equitable response to and recovery from COVID-19. Potential legislative priorities for NC Child have been informed by conversations with all of you, So members of our Child Advocacy Network, our Parent Advisory Committee, our Youth Advocacy Committee, and then other professional advocates also that we partner with to speak up for kids, and then, run those ideas back out to you guys. And so our legislative agenda for 2021, I want to tease you a little bit. It won't be finalized until the end of the week, but we are gearing up to work on a wide range of issues. So we're looking at things from expanded Medicaid access to cash assistance for families that we know is sorely needed right now, to accommodations to help workers who are pregnant to safely remain in the workforce, because we know that women are leaving the workforce at really unprecedented rates that are just astounding right now. So we want to do all that we can to help families to meet basic needs in the interim, and then also to set our state up to build back better, right? And to build systems in place so that something like this can't happen again. And so with all of that said, I want to introduce you all to Shawna Daniels, who, as Michelle mentioned, is an early childhood specialist in Orange County, North Carolina. In my summary, I talked about House Bill 918, which we were able to fight off this year thanks to folks all over the state coming together who know firsthand the harm that legislation like that can cause. Shawna was one of those people who really just, took it upon herself and took some action to stop this bill. And we wanted to invite her here to say more about that experience and tell us a little bit about, that advocacy work. So Shawna, thank you for joining us, and let us learn something from you.
Oh, thank you, Whitney. I'm not quite sure how much I can teach, although I do teach classes, so I could go on and on. One of the things that this entire experience has taught me is that I've probably written or sent out several of the Child Action Network emails to my legislators, but this one particular one seemed to pique the interest of my local representative, who really took it upon herself to carry the message that I shared with her to other legislators. So basically what happened was that I ended up getting through the Action Network, getting a note after listening about House Bill 918 on some of the legislative calls. I got this note saying, we really need you to send out an email or contact your legislators. And so, like I always do, I just went ahead and did it. But as I was writing it, I started really feeling like the verbiage that comes with the letter, although very helpful, wasn't necessarily the message I wanted to share. I'm a child of adoption. I lived in foster care for a little while. I have friends who are foster parents and have adopted or fostered children, and I thought that message would be really meaningful. So I added that in. I have no idea. I added that in and immediately got a letter back from Representative Insco, who I've actually had conversations with before because of other emails I sent. And so one of the first things she asked was if she could use what I wrote to help with the argument against House Bill 918 and in support of families that really needed a little more time to make the connections back after a parent had issues with drug addiction or whatever else would end up being a part of this process. And then to also give space and time for foster parents to give the child care. So not immediately putting more children on them. What I saw was that it was going to overpower the foster care system, and that the quality of care that children would get may not be as good as it could be, and that it was going to hinder family relationships, for natural birth relationships. And from all of that, just having conversations with her, which to me, again, I just kind of sent her an email and then responded back to her like she's one of my neighbors, to be honest, but just having this back and forth with her. And then I started to realize how important that voice itself was, that Representative Insco, as kind as she is, didn't really have much of an experience with foster care. And so giving her that voice is important, just like it's important for us to talk about all of the other child-focused issues that go through our legislators. Giving them that that voice is super important. And I'm not quite sure how many times we can say that on one call, but giving your voice is really important. And even if you don't necessarily have a personal connection in that moment, still using the Child Action Network to make that connection with your legislators is, I think, super helpful. I never would have considered myself an advocate. Anyone that you talk to in any of the agencies and organizations I've worked in have always kind of leaned away from advocacy, but have now realized that, of course, I'm an advocate. I'm speaking for children every day. I'm educating educators every day. And so I just needed to find my place as an advocate. And I got that help from the Action Network in doing the letter. So I almost feel like it's not really about, my experience is amazing, but it's more about everyone realizing that they can use NC Child and the Action Network to communicate and to make change for the children and families that they care so much about.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shawna. That is exactly what we hope will happen every time that we send out an action alert, right? We hope that someone sees themselves in the data, in the policy issue that we're talking about, and is able to connect that personal story and speak right to their legislator. Because, as we saw with your example, that's exactly what legislators want to hear, right? Like, we at NC Child can talk about this, these issues all day long as, general concepts and ideas. But I just really thank you for sharing your personal story, because that story made a difference, right? Somebody heard that and they felt this issue and didn't just hear about it, right? And so it's really invaluable to our work. And I hope that other advocates who are watching right now, or potential advocates, see that, you never considered yourself an advocate before, but we certainly do. And I think that other people, acting the way that you acted on this bill can make such a big difference as we move forward, especially in this long session when all of these new bills are going to be filed, to really be able to speak up for kids and to make some change in ways that we really want to see as our state is trying to dig our way out of the COVID crisis. So thank you again for sharing that. It does look like in the meantime, we did get one question. And I just want to say it is about the current poverty rate for kids in the state, and then the current rate in Hope County specifically. So I'll say that our statewide poverty rate for children is just about 22%, but we at NC Child like to talk about children who live in poor and low income homes. So not just that 100% of the federal poverty level, but 200%, because that's where we know that a lot of families are still struggling to meet basic needs. And that rate statewide, the last time that data was collected, was about 46%. You can find that information for Hope County specifically on our website on NC Child's county data cards. And you can get to that at ncchild.org/data cards. So thank you for sending in that question. Now I just want to, finally end the wait and share a really brief video with you guys about the impact that we've been able to have together in 2020. You are the first people to see this, and we are really excited to introduce this end of year video to you. Take a look and please enjoy.
Between the pandemic, the economy, people losing their jobs, families are really, really struggling.
That we're also seeing things like families not having enough food to eat, families not having enough money to keep the lights on or keep the rent or mortgage paid, and kids are feeling those effects.
And especially in communities of color. Many of those communities, children were already experiencing things like food insecurity and poverty and other things that they need to be successful. And unfortunately, the pandemic has just exacerbated some of those problems.
2020 has been a heck of a year. but let's hold on to the good so that post-COVID, we still have these relationships that we have built and these intentionalities of what community really is.
And our staff worked with our partners, with other advocates, with members of our network across the state to address many of those different issues. And we were successful in getting funding and policy change for much of what we thought was important for kids.
Youth voices need to be heard. NC Child works with youth and advocates to make sure we have the best chance to succeed.
Just so heartening to see that when we work together, we can have a big impact. We can change policymakers' minds.
It's you speaking up that has the power to change a concept of what's best for North Carolina's kids into a strategy to improve their future. Your work and your influence can change hearts.
When you join us, you give children in North Carolina a voice.
Please give like our children's future depends on it, because it does.
Give like my future depends on it.
Thank you so much for everyone seeing that video, for being part of this discussion today in this Facebook Live. We are so happy to be able to show you that video, which I think highlights what is really so very important, is that when we talk about, you guys, I always get like teary at these things. I hear Shawna's story and I think, how some person made such a huge difference because they spoke up for kids. And so when we talk about our team at NC Child, it's not just our staff. It's not Whitney and Fawn and Adam and all the rest of our team. It's them and you. Folks like Shawna, who are speaking up for kids across the state, folks who are taking action on our action alerts. Our team is our whole network of advocates across North Carolina who are making a difference for kids by speaking up. I think what Whitney said, it is you speaking up that has all the power in the world to make a difference for kids and to change their world and to change their trajectory. So thank you for doing that and speaking up on behalf of kids and families in North Carolina. Your comment, Shawna, really, and your story is just so admirable. I want to check in and see if there are any questions. So let me go down to the chat here, you all. Hold on one second and take a look to see if there's any more questions that either Whitney or I can answer before we kind of close up here. Looking to see just a lot of thank yous to Shawna for her story, for taking action, and for being really such an inspiration to all of us here at NC Child, and really all of our team and network across the state. Whitney, do you see any questions that I'm not seeing, ma'am?
No more questions, just a lot of love from you guys that we really appreciate getting. You are the backbone of our work, but it's always nice to hear you guys say thank you too.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to close up. We have about just a few more minutes, and we know that you all have a busy day. I want to say just a couple things. One is thank you for being here, for being part of our team, for being part of our network. As I said before, if you're not already on our email alerts list, you can sign up now at our website, ncchild.org. We'll put a direct link into for the sign up form in the chat right now. Your voice matters, so please take a second and sign up for that alerts list. You all may know that today is Giving Tuesday, and I really want to emphasize how much we appreciate your contributions that you all have made to NC Child. We literally could not do this work for kids without your support. So a huge thank you for all that you do to support us, not only taking action, but also your financial contributions. And if you'd like to make a gift right now, you can do that on our website at ncchild.org/donate. We have a lot of work ahead of us, as Whitney pointed out, in 2021 to make sure that North Carolina's families and our kids can survive and thrive, even during these really difficult times that we're facing under COVID. Thank you for being part of our advocacy community. You give us hope that we can, in fact, make a difference for kids. So thank you for all you're doing. stay safe, stay healthy, have a very good holiday. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We are always excited when people reach out to us with information or stories or questions. We're happy to partner and help you out. And with that, I will sign off and say thank you. And Whitney, would you like to say anything else, ma'am?
Just thanks. And you guys, I'll be in touch so that hopefully we can grow more fantastic advocates like Shawna in 2021.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye.